Hello, everyone, and welcome to Of Mind and Metal podcast. We're here tonight on the 1st of August with my good friend Nick Liebel. How you doing, Nick?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. It is already August, which means school's starting soon.
What was that?
I said it's August 1st today, which means that school is starting soon. You're kind of already getting into that.
Yeah, we got band camp this coming week, and our district has us going. We're like they want to start on time, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, it hasn't really hit some of these rural places that like I'm in very much. So
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll see what happens. So our quote today is based off of a picture of a soldier in World War II carrying a donkey in a field. And the quote is, "It is not that the soldier loves donkeys or has some sort of perversion. What's happening is that the field is mined, and that if the donkey was free to wander as it pleased, it would likely detonate a charge and kill everyone. The moral of the story is that during difficult times, the first ones you have to keep under control are the jackasses who don't understand danger and do as they please." I was sifting through my phone, and I don't know, that's just really true. You know, like a lot of times when people get under stress, they just kind of freak out and just like they're not calm, they're not detached. And I thought that was really relevant today, especially in the state of the world in a lot of ways. Not to take sides, but just to say that everything is such a minefield these days. And if you're really not careful what you say or what you do, and if you don't spend time thinking about what you actually think about something or whatnot, you're probably going to just detonate something. And I think social media has really, that's a minefield. And so, you just got to be careful and think about what you're going to do, what you're going to say, what you're going to post, if anything. But these days, it's like it's a minefield that there's no real path to. So it's really difficult. But that just got me thinking about staying calm under pressure. And, in jiu-jitsu, you can kind of sometimes be in a position and hold a position. Some people call it stalling or whatever, but you can be in a position and you can not be trying to advance your position. You're just kind of holding a position. And sometimes I think that's okay in life to just think about what you're about to do, mentally figure out what direction you want to go and not do anything rash. And in my life right now, I've had a lot of decisions to make about stuff, and it's really easy to just get completely rattled with all these different things and people pulling you in different directions. It's so easy to get emotional and to get sucked in and to kind of panic. And you can't be like the donkey. You gotta relax. You gotta put the donkey on your back, and you gotta take a step forward. And yeah, throw it back to you.
Yeah, to me that sounds like, what I pull from that is like sticking to your guns, and sticking to what you know. Is like, I don't know. Do you see kind of where I'm going at all?
Sure, maybe. We'll keep talking.
Well, I feel like, I don't know. In this day and age, if you don't have something true to hold to, then the donkey's gonna go and it's gonna detonate. Because to me, from my understanding, just of you saying this quote, is the donkey sort of like your emotions, like running wild,
Yeah, the donkey will just run,
Yeah.
like it's not judicious to where it's walking. It just takes off. And
Hmm.
if you're in a dangerous environment, you're going to step on something that you're not supposed to. Like, you wouldn't want probably any type of animal, but a donkey is just the epitome of, I don't know, jackassery. Um,
Yes.
Perhaps maybe a farmer will come at me and tell me they're intelligent, but who knows?
Dude, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm not even gonna delve into that one anymore because that's good. Good stuff.
All right. Well, do you have anything that's been happening in your life, Ben, that you can enlighten us about?
Well, this week has been interesting and boring at the same time. So, at the beginning of throughout the week, um, I was getting really frustrated because, all right, so here's the situation. So we have a theater room. It's over here. It's like my practice space, but that's also where we have the Xbox. And so, like with online gaming now, you can play with people all across the world. And my brother loves to do that, and we just had some friends move away, so he can't see them anymore. So the way he keeps in contact with them, one of the ways, is to hang out with them. But it's hard to manage the time because it's used as like when I want to practice, or when someone wants to play video games, which is not just Luke. Like I also play, but I work pretty much every day, and so I've had this like struggle with could he just wait, or like what is this not unreasonable to think? And so one day I just like sat and I was like just like doing nothing. And then I thought about it at work, and I was like really upset with myself. I was like, I just wasted all this time. And I'm not saying it's bad to do nothing. Sometimes you need to do nothing. But in that instance, to me, it was not a time where I needed to just sit. And so I got really frustrated, and I got really frustrated at work. And it reminded me of that scene in Rocky 3 when Apollo Creed is talking to Rocky, and Rock just doesn't get it in his head like how important this is, like how this, like, Clubber Lang's gonna knock you upside, he will kill you. And so I just got really frustrated with, like, I completely wasted my time, on top of the fact of, like, we have to share the room and how to maneuver that. So I was like, you know what, I have all these books, so I'm just going to start reading. And earlier, a couple of weeks ago, it's not, maybe a month and a half ago, I started digging into the concept of truth and kind of where truth comes from. And in my belief, and what I believe to be true, is that truth comes from God, because truth is an abstract construct. And by the way, this is totally out of my wheelhouse from like picking up heavy stuff and like blowing a metal tube, so bear with me. But so truth is an abstract construct, and if you take God out of the equation, then there's no real moral ground, or like there's no origin of truth. So my grandpa was a pastor for 20 plus years, and I went to go visit him and talk about it. And I picked up this book written by Dinesh D'Souza. This is what it looks like. It's called "What's So Great About God." I don't know if it's backwards in the image or whatnot, but I'm only like a third of the way into it, but it's so interesting because it talks about like the concept of evil and suffering in the world, and how some will question like the benevolence and omnipotence of God. And it's just fascinating to see D'Souza talk about like like he compares like atheist thought compared to Christian thought. So that has been awesome. And then I also got into the Bob Duke book, Intelligent Music Teaching. Bob Duke, this is what it looks like. And we'll put links to these in the description. But it was a book I got in school, and I was like, okay, I need to read this. Like, haven't read it. And then Nick here was telling me, oh, dude, you got to read this book. Like, it makes so much sense. And I was like, okay, I will. And then finally, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna do something. You know, and to go back to Creed, like Creed always says, like, to rock in that moment, there is no tomorrow. And that like kind of hit me a little bit, both in terms of it kind of in everything. That kind of like jump started these last couple days. And so I just got to town reading. And you know, so the first chapter of Intelligent Music Teaching is about precision in speech and precision in like the student has to know what the purpose of the subject is or the lesson is. At least from my understanding, that's what I gathered that it means. And if it means something else, Nick, or means something different to you, let me know. But I wrote something down from it, some notes down from it that Nick, like if you have something to say on it, please do. But there was a section where he was talking about the objectivity of subject learning. And let's see, I wrote, what do Bernstein and Bob Duke have in common when talking about the objective of a subject and learning through a different medium? So I can't remember exactly where I was going through that, but it reminded me when I was reading about how you learn things. Bernstein was talking about you learn things through different mediums, and how is that incorporated, or how could we incorporate that into identifying a subject matter or like the objective of the subject? Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Do I need to be more clear?
I'm just listening.
Okay. And so we can like get into that. And then another note I wrote down, you know, as I am a beginning teacher, like I'm about to do my fall internship in September. And I've gone through 4 years of music ed, and I've been told this whole time that like it's kind of like getting thrown in like in a wild horse race. You know, it's kind of wild, and like you go through the classes and it's nice and controlled, but when you get into the field, it's crazy, at least for your first time. And Duke just made very, very clear to not get bogged down by the prereqs and to not get down, because like as a beginning teacher, like I know I am not going to be, you know, the best teacher ever. I'm not going to be Bernstein as soon as I hop on the podium or anything. And then the final note I wrote in there was not thinking of teaching like a performance, because and this really hit me, because, and I noticed this, like I have gone like in front of students before, and I've kind of felt like, okay, I know all these things, so like let's all like put it into one thing now, and like it has to be this one like really smooth piece. But really, it's just like, it's kind of like a practice session. Like the performance is on the stage, you know. If you're thinking about performing in front of your kids every day, then I don't know. I have the beginnings of the thoughts of it. I mean, I'm not in like your shoes, Nick, or future or teachers that have been around for, you know, 10, 15 years, but I found it like a very provocative thought. So I don't know, lay it on me. Hit me back with what you think about that.
All right. Well, you were talking about time first, and I was listening to an Elon Musk interview, and he was talking about how he's recently starting to sell all of his houses and sell a bunch of his possessions, and he just wants to focus on Mars. And he was pressed on why he's doing that. And he pretty much just said, if I'm focused on owning things or having things, then that's time that I'm not spending thinking about space or things that he really cares about.
Yeah.
So I'd challenge you, and I challenge the listener to just think about, yeah, like when you're making a decision to do something, that means that you're taking time away from something else that you want. And time is really the only resource. That's our most valuable resource, you know, like, and time is what we use to develop skill. And that's how we develop the brain. That's kind of what the brain runs on. You know, it runs on time. Like, that's how you get better at things. You invest time into it. That's how you improve relationships with people. You invest time into them. That's what helps develop them. And so I think that's kind of my response to that is, and that's kind of what I've been thinking about. I have a lot of time right now to think about these types of things and to figure out, you know, what really do you want to put your time into. And the best way, kind of like, I mean, the Rocky thing is, I mean, that's just an awesome scene when he's screaming at him that there is no tomorrow. Yeah. But I think even to think farther out, thinking about what you want to do and where you want to go, like, you need to, like, think about what type of skill you're going to need for that, and try to, like, start saving up for what skill you're going to need. You know, it's almost like saving up for something, like a house or a car or a guitar, or, you know, anything that you want to buy, and you can't afford. You kind of make a plan and you say, okay, I'm going to save up for this. Skill is kind of the same way. Like, you're not going to learn something just like boom, and really be good at it. So that's kind of my response to that. And then the second thing, when you were saying that being a first year, you know, you're told that it's like a horse race and it's crazy and stuff. And this kind of ties in with the Bob Duke, the precision in thought and language, that first chapter. And I really think what he's talking about is that you really have to you have to be really clear mentally as to what you want to do, but most importantly, like, what your concepts are and what your goals are for the students. Because if it's not clear to you, it's not going to be clear to them. So and this is another thing that I've been thinking about a lot, is it's really easy to get caught up thinking about, oh man, I have to do this, and like how you're doing things. And I think a lot of people get caught up into that. You know, oh, I got to teach clarinets to do this, or, oh, I have to do this, or, you know, like all these prerequisites that we're talking about. And I think people are a little bit too loose in their concept, and they're loose in their concept, and they're too rigid in their structure. And I think it needs to kind of be the other way around, where you're really rigid with your concept. This is really what you want to do, but you got to be a little bit flexible with your concept. And that's kind of what, you know, we got camp coming up next week, and I don't know how this is going to look. We're going to social distance the kids. We got a bunch of stuff that we got to follow. And we do have some rigid things that we need to follow. But as far as how much time we're going to spend on certain things, you know, I can't write down we're going to spend X amount of time on this, X amount of time on this, because we don't necessarily know where the kids are at. We've had some rehearsals, but we don't know how rusty they're going to be, or if maybe they're really practiced a lot, or maybe they get it really fast. Maybe the freshmen this year are just totally gonna get it, you know. So you got to be rigid in those concepts, though, like what you're looking for, what you're really after, and a little bit looser in the way that you go about doing it, because crap's always going to change on you. And I mean, look at this environment right now. Crap's getting shut down left and right. But if you know what you believe in, what you're trying to teach or what you're trying to communicate, then you're going to find a different way to do it, because you're staying true, kind of like what you were saying at the beginning. You're sticking to your guns, but you got to know what your guns are. And that's the entire first chapter of the Duke book. He's saying you got to know what you are trying to do, because if you don't know what you're trying to do, and if you don't know where you want the kids to go, then that's the problem that he says is with teaching in in music and in other subjects is that when you walk by a classroom, you see a teacher teaching something different than the test is going to be, and that's what, and that's, maybe that's the later chapters, but he's really getting after this notion of know what you want to do. And the more specific you can get with it, the more you can focus everything on it. The more general it is, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Well, that's just what music is, right? I mean, in our field, like it's that mental image. It's the concept of sound, both in, and it's just taken to a different form. Like, because in solo playing or even ensemble playing, like, like there's two different, you have your solo playing, so you can take a lot more liberties, but you still have your sound and like what the way you want to shape the piece. So if I'm starting to play New Orleans, for instance, like I'm gonna play that differently probably than someone else, and it's just because it's what I have in my head, or I don't know. There's gonna be different versions, but it's as long as we have the clarity, clarity of the sound, clarity of the musical idea, clarity of the way we want, clarity of the idea in terms of like the piece, so we can relate it to the kids. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and and that translates to other things too. That translates to when you're in the gym and you're like, man, I just want to annihilate something today. Well, if you have a vision of getting stronger, or if you have a certain vision of looking a certain way or doing something, that's really not, I mean, maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe it's not what you want to do. It just depends on what that goal is and what that vision is. Because once you have a vision for something, then you're able to prioritize. Then you're able to say, okay, this is what we're after. This is the main goal of what I need to do today. Let's say I go to the gym and I have a really good day doing something, and the next day I'm really sore. And I'm sore in a way that I'm like, maybe I shouldn't lift as heavy today, or maybe I really can't go as hard, or I might get hurt. Like I'm just beat up and I need a couple of days to recover. Well, depending on what your goal is, you can tailor that workout to still start making progress. Maybe you just go in and you just stretch it out. Maybe you do the movements of the lifts really light and you're working on speed. Maybe you just go in and do a bunch of ab exercises, or you hit a weird muscle group that you never have time to hit. Maybe you go and you say, I'm going to learn how to jump rope, and I want to do more kettlebell training, and or something. But you go in with a goal like, I just got to do stuff fast and light, or you know what I mean, like, or maybe I just need to build some muscle or something. So once you know where you're trying to go, that kind of puts everything, it kind of helps everything fall into place a little bit better, and you're not living as day to day. So when you wake up, it's not like, what am I going to do today? It's, how do I just take another step closer to this goal that I have? And, maybe you only practice for an hour, but then you can put the horn down and you're not like, hey, I'm a terrible person because I didn't practice for 5 hours. You're like, I reinforced some good habits. I built a couple new habits today, or I planted seeds of, maybe some scales that I couldn't do, or maybe I started doing some swerves into a register that I'm struggling with, or whatnot, or maybe I'm practicing with the metronome for the first time. I dusted it off. So I just think that it just goes back to that rigidity in concept, precision in thought, really knowing what you're trying to do. And, and this isn't new. I mean, this is what Arnold's talking about all the time, and that's what the great brass players are talking about all the time. It's what everybody talks about that's successful in anything, is knowing where you want to go, and then everything else just falls into place. There was an interview and somebody asked Arnold how to get motivated. They pretty much just said, like, I'm having trouble getting motivated. And they said, what are your suggestions? And he said, you don't have a good enough vision. It wasn't like go buy a book. It wasn't go do this. He was like, you just don't know what you want to be. And I think a big challenge as educators with younger students is, and even college, even college, like, but a lot of people just haven't given thought to like what they could really be. And it's just kind of sad in a way, because I think that music is like life in this way where we kind of experience it through time, and you have a part to play, and sometimes you're the harmony, sometimes you're the melody, sometimes you're playing a duet, sometimes you're in a key change, sometimes you're in dissonance, sometimes you're in consonance, sometimes, we're in all these different places at different points in your life.
For sure.
And people don't understand sometimes when it's really their time to shine. And when you have the melody, sing it out. You know what I mean? But they don't even know who they are,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have this vision for where they're going and stuff. And I think that it's just, I look out and I see all these beautiful music compositions as other people that are just, that they don't even understand the beauty of like what they have,
Yeah.
and so helping people max out is helping them have a vision of, hey, this is who you could be, instead of just day to day, man, I'm tired. Oh, I'm tired. Like, I can't even imagine saying like, man, I'm tired, because I got so much stuff that I'm excited to do. Like, on a level of like 1 to 10, my stress level is like 20, but it's awesome because of what I get to do. I can impact so much in a positive way. Like, I have the opportunity to really like make an impact on people, just like the people that have had an impact on me. Like, it's my turn now, and I'm so excited to build those relationships, but I'm not going to let being tired get in the way. Like, it motivates me when I'm tired, because it's like, man, like, all my kids feel this way right now, but you know what? I'm going to fight this so that I can stand in front of them and tell them, hey, like, I am too, but hey, like, but let's get after this, So it's all about that vision. Don't be a donkey, just like calm down.
Yeah. And I might be wrong on this, but in this time specifically, like these past 4 months or so, it feels easier to do it in an environment where more people depend on you or are around you than by yourself. Unless you're just like straight up like Jocko, discipline equals freedom every day on like everything you do. But like because I've also thought about that. Like, I have the opportunity to like grow today, to grow in all sorts of ways, but specifically it comes to like it all comes back to playing for me, and like my time with the horn. And it's like, what, I really don't want to go and do this, but like, what, I'm gonna do it. And like sometimes I don't, sometimes I just don't. And not that that's bad. It's not what I want necessarily to do, but sometimes that is what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I agree and I disagree, just because I think it, not to just over concept this thing, but like, it's all about what vision you have, and how other people play into your vision. When we had that crew going on at Ozark, that was awesome, because in my head I was thinking, man, like, we got this team of people, and to a degree y'all depended on me to like kind of tell you what we were doing and stuff, but that could also intimidate someone. You know what I mean? If they're just like, oh man, like, I can't keep up, instead of thinking to themselves, oh dude, like, these people are really going to take me to another level. So it's, I agree with you. I guess I do think it's easier when you have people around you to, but at the same point, it's also easier to just get to that level and coast. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So like, it's almost, for me, because I've spent most of my life, when I was practicing a lot, usually I was the most motivated person as a tuba player wherever I was. there weren't a lot of people around me my age at my place in life that gave me like real competition.
Yeah.
And I would have killed for that. Like, I thought that would have been awesome. However, the fact that I didn't made me kind of, you know, there was almost like an ignorance, like I didn't even know who was better. I mean, I was aware of it. I was looking around, I was trying to find people, but I hadn't seen somebody doing something that I'm doing like better than me. Like, who knows, maybe that would have really bothered me. I like to think that it wouldn't have, but the fact that I was kind of like, you know, in Batman Begins mode, just like always in this cave. Then when I kind of emerged out of it, it was like, I didn't have any other expectations because I hadn't had any limits set from people around me. Mm-hmm. So I think that if there are people around you, you know, and I mean, with a lot of us in that crew, like, you know, there's me and you, but there were others that there's a little bit of competition. There was like, okay, this guy's coming up on me a little bit. All right, I'm going to go a little bit harder. He's going a little bit harder to say, I'm going to go a little bit harder. Or you know, I remember talking to you where you're just like, when you weren't there, you were like, hey, what was this guy lifting? And I remember convincing you to get in on it. Yep. I kept telling you what other people that you were competitive with
and it worked.
Were lifting. And I would just call you up whenever they would set a PR. And I'd be like, dude, guess how much this guy lifted today? And you'd be like, no way, dude. Like, no way. I don't even do that. And I was like, dude, that's why you got to come and scope it out. However, you know, like, now that I'm here and my gym is different, it's forced me to get creative in a different way. You know, so I'm improving now that I'm away from all of you guys. There's like maybe not as much pressure for me to lift heavy like all the time. And I can kind of taper back and focus on my goals. And I mean, of course, like, I still lift probably a little bit heavier than I should most of the time. Yeah. But there isn't like an external, but you know, competition does different things to you. So I think, I don't know. I think it can work both ways, but I think it depends on like how you're writing that story in your head. Like, because a lot of people, when they get alone in this quarantine, like, I don't know about you, but I've talked to a lot of people that have, or not a lot, I don't really talk to anyone but you and a few others, but you know, I've talked to some people that have like regressed. Oh man, like, I'm doing this all the time. Or, oh yeah, like, I haven't touched my horn. Or, yeah, man, like, I haven't hit the gym, or like whatever. And like, it just kind of breaks your heart a little bit, because you're like, man, like, you had so much potential. Like, I think you were better than me at stuff, you know, like, I see, you know what I mean? And that's hard to see. It's like, man, this person like was really playing in like an awesome way that you're just like, dude, if this guy keeps going, he can pass me easy, you know, or this dude doesn't know how far he could go, or man, that dude was really pumping in shape. And then there's other people that you and I know that are like totally killing it now. And it's just like, man, that's so cool in their own way. And that's the coolest part, is that they wouldn't have done that if they were just lifting, because we were pretty much lifting my way. You know what I mean? So it's cool that, but that's the story thing. Like, that was the base for you to go do your strongman, these guys to go do whatever they're doing. So I just think that's why I just think it's so important that with the story, with the rigidity of your concept, most importantly, that you kind of view your life as a story, and that you're just writing it. And it's like, it's awesome that we're doing this right now, because this is keeping us motivated. It's keeping us hyped, and we're letting, I don't know, whoever cares to see in on this. But like, it's not always going to be this way. No. Like, you're going to have a job in a couple of years, whatever you end up doing. But this is going to be part of that journey that's helping you, that you're investing time in, that when you're talking to a student, when you're training somebody, when you're talking to a girl, I don't know, but you're like a better person because of all this. And so, but it's all because you have this vision of like who Ben Grief is, and all of these things that add up that support that, you know, because if we're kind of like a pyramid and you're at the top, and like, my students already know this, it's awesome, but I always say, how tall is a pyramid? And do you know the answer to that?
As wide as its base is?
As wide as its base. So as you keep pounding the fundamentals, you actually keep raising the pyramid. You know what I mean? Like, you keep building the bottom of it, you know, because, and Jocko was talking about this the other day with his gym out in California, but like, as they get more white belts and they train them really well, that builds the pyramid and that builds it higher. So their top black belts actually get higher as the white belts improve, as that base expands and improves.
Yeah.
So all these little things matter, you know, and so
for sure.
Throw it back to you.
And that's to go back to the, you know, when we were all, the crew was all back at the gym. You know, that is one thing that I miss so much right now. Like, not just that crew, but being around like a studio that all, like, you know, everyone has their own style, their own flavor, their own flair, and just like having everyone to like, well, like, this is what they're doing, and like everyone in their own way was getting some. Like, there was some, like, I was like, wow, like, that is impressive. I was inspired all the time.
I'm with you.
And I was like, this is awesome. So, dude, I'm so ready to get back in an environment with like people, because like, yes, I agree. Like, if the vision is super clear, then like maybe you won't have as much trouble. But for myself, I would argue that there will be a little bit of trouble, depending. I don't know. At least for me, there's trouble. For me.
No. Hey,
yeah.
I think I totally agree. There's totally trouble.
Yeah.
Like, is it easy? Like, absolutely not. Like, I'm not. Yeah, no. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying I've spent most of my life, you know, like this, like just kind of being on a wavelength that's just a little bit different. I'm just a little bit more willing to maybe cut something out. But like what you're saying, I think that's what makes it worth it, is that eventually you're going to find those people that are all on that wavelength. But what's cool about that wavelength is that it's actually not the same. It's like its own dimension. Like, once you get onto the wavelength, you realize, oh, there's all these different styles, and people are like just getting after in their own different way. And that's what made that crew so special, was that we had like 6 different people that were all highly, like, that we all really respected, that were all very different. You know, like, we probably couldn't have some of the conversations. Like, we don't agree on all the same things, but we all agreed on the fact that, hey, like, we're about getting better. We're about not making excuses. You know, we're about, you know, laying the foundation. We're about doing the small things. And so, and that's what, when you find other people like that, you just can kind of sense that about them. But if you're not, but in these times like we're in right now, you know, you can tell if people are using this time to, man, like, yeah, I've really been like, you know, trying to find, dig a little bit deeper, find out a little bit more about myself. Or if they're just like, yeah, man, like, this sucks. Like, I've kind of like slacked off on everything. And that's not like a bad thing. You know, like, people have stuff going on. People have like issues. And I don't mean that in like people got issues, but I just mean like, you know, a lot of people are by themselves and alone. I mean, that's going to take its toll mentally if you're not careful, you know? So, I think that, you know, isolation isn't necessarily healthy for everybody. But I do think that for the chosen that decide to use it as an opportunity, I mean, this is like a superpower, man. I mean, we got time to hunker down and to invest in ourselves in a way, in a commitment level that you can't do when you have school going on, or when you're student teaching, or when you're doing other stuff. And you can just dial in as hard as you want, as much as you're willing to go. And I'll hand it off to you. I'm gonna find a quote that you're gonna dig.
Okay. Is it related to this? Because I kind of I wanted to backtrack it just a tad.
Yeah. No, I'll tie it back in. Go ahead.
Okay. I think, because you know, talking about how everyone has their own unique thing that they have and in which they go about, but like they're still united by one goal. and like, like, so with that crew, it was like, gains, we want to make gains. And like each person was, getting after it in their own way. And I would argue that that is what makes America great and what should continue to make America great. That's the diversity of thought, because we're all in one nation, united, and I just think that's awesome that we live in a land where anyone can have any thought or believe anything or want to say anything, but we're still united, and like, you're not going to, go to jail for saying something wrong or whatever. But I think we're losing it a little bit, which is sad, and we need to fight against. But that's one of the reasons why America's so great, man, is that there's one common goal here, is that you can have a life full of freedom here, and it doesn't matter what background you come from, what color you are, it doesn't matter. We're all united under this flag. Well, not this particular flag, because this flag has 48 stars, but there's a flag currently across from me with 50. But I don't know. That's one of the reasons why America, I think, is so great.
Mm-hmm. Well, and yeah, I mean, I think if we look around at the rest of the world, like, I mean, there's a lot of bad. There's just so much bad going on, and we're totally in the top 1%. Even at some of our worst, it's still pretty great what we're able to do, and how this country's been able to change. Like the Civil War, the civil rights, like women's rights. I mean, look at other countries that make that big of like reforms and see how well they last. I mean, like it's a little bit unprecedented how we're just able to say, hey, we have a problem with this and we're going to change it. Like, that's pretty incredible. But I think, like you're saying, it's that reflects itself on the human level. I was watching A Knight's Tale.
Oh, it's such a good movie.
Classic film.
Classic.
And I watched that actually I finished it this morning. And what's so like, it's who is it? Ulrich is talking to Roland, and Ulrich says to him, what makes a noble a noble? Like, didn't they have to start? Like, they weren't just born a noble. Like, what about the first one, or whatever? And I don't know, it just got me thinking, because like back in that time, like, you couldn't switch class, like you couldn't rise up. Didn't matter how hard you worked. A piece of paper told you, who you were. But here, it doesn't matter. Like, you can affect your outcome. And most people just don't believe that. And the quote I was looking for says, demand more from yourself than anyone else could ever expect. And that's the biggest problem, is that a lot of people just don't even expect anything of themselves. And I don't, and I have this problem too. Like, I don't expect enough out of myself. You don't expect enough out of yourself. But that thing is that, like, you don't know what to demand if you don't know what you could be. And so, but I'm totally with you about this country, and you can turn your outcome on a dime based off of how hard you work. And just the ability that you're able to focus on something and do it. There's countless stories of people that just refuse to take no for an answer or to withdraw. And I could not agree more about even everything that's going on right now. I mean, look at just factions of people that are rising up to say, hey, this is what we believe, and they're affecting change. But whether no matter what side of whatever you agree on, like, that's how great this country is, that that you can affect change so in so much, with so much greater ease than you ever could have in any other country, in any other time. And I mean, it's quite peaceful as well. I mean,
Yes.
and I mean that, you know, if you just look at other protests and riots in other countries, like, so, like I said, no matter what side of the field you're on of it, like, it's it's a testament to that. You know, you can change anything you want to
Yes.
if you're focused and if you're persistent enough. And so, but people need to take that to that personal level. And I don't know, sometimes that surprises me. It's just, it amazes me how fired up people get about certain things.
Mhm.
And it's like, man, if you got this fired up about like your life or that class that you were in, or this thing that you say that you're going to school for that you really like,
Mhm.
man, like you could change the world. But people don't, yeah, we just don't ever demand enough from
Yes.
our
Everyone wants to eat, but few will hunt.
fuel hunt. Everyone wants to be the
Fuel hunt.
beast.
Yeah.
But no one wants to do it the beast, dude. I like that hunt one though. That's a good one. Yeah, everyone wants to eat. No one wants
Yeah.
to hunt.
I saw that. I saw that on a flag. In the gym,
That
I'm
gym.
gonna start going
Yeah.
to at that strongman competition.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was like, dang, that's so good, and it's so true. Like, it's like, all right, I want to be a Joel Alessi. All right, well, how much do you practice? Well, I haven't practiced all summer.
Or, you know, or you just say, or, you know, it goes back to like the Bob Duke, like precision in thought and language. Like if you're playing something and you can't hear it, like what is the horn doing on your face?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's like loading up a barbell and just being like, let's just see what happens. Like let's
And
just,
I've done that. I've literally done that. You had to help me.
I know. Like believe me, I know. So, you know, it's just, yeah, man, it's, people are crazy. But
Yes.
the thing is that, you know, we do that in other phases of our life too. You know, it's so abundantly clear to us right now when we're talking about lifting, or we're talking about music, or we're talking about other stuff. But there's other points in our life that we totally don't make that transfer to. And that's the real challenge is making sure that we're always staying vigilant with like all these areas of our life, because they all kind of go together. And going back to the pyramid thing, because that's everything in your life is kind of like a pyramid. Like you yourself are kind of like a pyramid. So, you know, it's kind of like, you know, if one part of it is damaged, that ends up affecting the rest of it, because the weight isn't just maybe distributed in the same way, and there's more pressure on certain sides of, and that's going to manifest itself in different points in your life. You know, it's kind of like if you're tight when you're playing the trombone, or you're tight when you're playing an instrument, that's going to come out. You know, and whatnot. So,
well, so with the vision, with, you know, because we're talking about like bringing action to the vision and like acting on it, but like, what if someone has trouble defining their vision? So that my thought real quick is, Jocko talks about doing or using logic and emotion at the same time. So put that on the back burner for a second. So your vision, for me, or for anyone, it could be anything. But for me, and I think with most people, it might be what they love, what they're passionate about, or what would be best for their situation. I mean, I don't know. I'm just imagining that maybe a father or a mother out there might have to be like, well, this isn't what I love, but like this is like what is best for my family, so this is what I have to do. So maybe it's not what they love, but it's what's, you know, required. So if we take the emotion side of it, you know, we're like, okay, I like, at least for music, I can speak truly for music because that's what I'm into. You know, you've got your emotion where you're like, I really want to like play, like for my life, for my whole life, and play and maybe teach some, like that is my passion. Okay, so that's your emotion. Now you've got the logic that's like, all right, you've got your emotion in play, so now let's use the logic to bring the vision to fruition, you know. So I don't know, that could be one way of defining the vision. I don't know if you've used a different way or if you have a different thought about that, but.
Yeah, I think that I establish vision by asking questions.
Mm.
So, and I think a good question is like a hydra, where once you cut off one head and two more appear.
Yeah.
So to me, the secret is getting on the right questioning thing. And I think a good sequence of questions is when you start to ask yourself, like, when you say, what do you want to be? And you don't know. Well, like, maybe you need to start asking, like, well, how do you want to make other people feel? Like, and you need to take the specific part out of the vision. You kind of need to do an inventory of yourself as well, I think. So you need to say, like, what do I like? What am I good at? You kind of got to say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. And then you got to say, because that's also important to recognize your own vision of yourself. Because if you don't know where you're at, you don't know where you can improve. So maybe you're saying, man, these are the things that I really enjoy. And it doesn't need to be anything profound. Maybe it's, I love playing video games. Maybe it's, I love doing blah, blah, blah. Like, I love eating. I don't know. Like, I don't know. But you got to take inventory of that stuff. And then you can have different visions for different things. But you get better. But I think that, the vision thing is a skill, just like anything else. So, like, you being able to have a vision and be motivated to some degree is kind of like a skill that you need to start building. But you start it by asking questions. Who am I? What does my name mean to me? If I walk up to you and you don't, or if you're talking about me to somebody, what do I want you to say? Number one, do I care? And everybody cares, no matter what they say. So I'm just saying, as human beings, for the most part, like, we care just what you're going to say, that doesn't mean that I want you to, like, brag on me, but I do care that, I don't want you to be like, well, he's, like, evil and he's whatever. So, but what things are important for you to say, and for some people that's their, I don't know, like, their political ideology or their religion. For some people, maybe it's something else. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they just want someone to be like, that's a bad dude or whatever. That's going to be a little bit harder to define because that's not very precise in language and thought. Bob dude. So I think that's a good question to ask, is like, what do you want somebody else to say about you? Or if somebody was writing you a recommendation, what would you want them to say? That's a good place to start. And then you can kind of say, am I doing those things? Is what I'm doing consistent? Would it reinforce that? And then that helps you with that time thing that you were talking about earlier. Man, I don't know, like I'm just sitting down and I'm kind of unmotivated. Well, now you got like 3 things. I want people to say this about me, and like I'm saying, this isn't like a vain thing, but this is a good like way of mirroring yourself to say, man, like, would someone actually say that about me? Or is that just something that, like, I do? Because if you're not really doing it to reinforce it, you can't really believe it about yourself, So I don't know. I think that's a good place. And then to say, well, how do I want to affect other people? What do I want to bring the world? But I think that question of what do you want others to view you, or how do you want others to perceive you? What do you want your best friends to say about you? What do you want your mom and dad to say about you? What do you want your brother to say about you? What do you want this person to say about you? And you start to kind of, because it's in the word vision, the vision of yourself. So you have to have a vision of yourself, so that's consistent with what other people are seeing, So
it goes back into last week about cultivating the culture. Like, what do you want to set the culture? Like, it's like setting a bar. Like, how do you want to cultivate the culture? How are you going to, improve what's going on, or what you want to do? Like, how can it all be improved and cultivated and brought forth?
Absolutely. And what's awesome about that setting that bar is that you can set it as high or low as you want.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to set, maybe I have certain bars that are higher than others. Mm-hmm. My jiu-jitsu bar isn't as high as some of my teaching bars. My fitness bar is a little bit higher than my jiu-jitsu one right now. That might change. My faith bar, my religion bar is a lot higher. However, maybe I need to spend more time on that, because maybe I don't pray as well as I'm hitting the gym or watching workout videos or practicing jujitsu.
Yeah.
So like when you start to set those bars, then you can kind of look at yourself and say, man, like I say that this is important to me, but my actions really don't reinforce that at all. And then now you kind of know what to do with that time, where to invest that time, because it's almost like just investing money into these things. And you got this paycheck every week of whatever 24 times 7 is, of however many hours that is.
Yeah.
And then you're like, all right, like this is where the money's going, you know, but then you don't know where your money's going. Like it took me a couple of years to figure out, like, still figuring out like what the hell I'm doing with my money. But if you don't know what you're spending and you don't know where your money's going, you literally have no idea what's going on with your life, you know, like, and you can't expect to like have money when you need it if you're not like policing yourself and saying, man, I can't be spending money on this or whatever. Or if you're just like, yeah, you know, like I'm just going to buy this candy bar or this rock star. Like if I had $1 for every time I saw somebody that told me they didn't have any money, was walking around with like an energy drink or like an iced tea or like fast food or something. And it's like, I mean, that's fine if that's what you want to do, but you're really not telling the truth, you know? Like you do have money, you're just like really undisciplined. And like, I'm not like, I mean, I got stuff to work on, you know, too. So I'm not saying that I'm above it, but I'm saying that but they don't know that unless they sit down and see where this stuff is going, you know. Otherwise you have no idea what the hell is going on.
And it's so humbling. Like I've got a lot of free time when I'm at work, so like about once or twice every month I'll like sit down and look at my finances and like what I've done, and it's amazing. Like you'll be sitting there and be like, oh, I probably didn't spend that much because like I'm like at home, it's summertime, I'm like not doing anything. No, it's actually like the opposite. Like every time you go to the gas station, every time you're like, oh, I'll just get food since I'm out, like it all adds up. And this month is going to be different because like I'm getting older, so that's becoming more of a priority for me. I mean, obviously I still struggle with it, and I'm still like working on it, but it's a process to get better.
But the thing is, the important thing is that we're looking at it and that you're making plans and you're saying, hey, like my car payment's always coming out. You know what I mean? And it's like, man, like I've been paying off this car for a couple of years and like, man, I've paid off this much money for my car. Like, holy cow, like I had no idea I've already paid off that much. And it's like, man, like what if I put that much money into something else? Like I could really pay this off. Or, you know, then you're thinking about skill, like, wow, like what if I just put a little bit of this stuff in what if I spent a little bit of time doing this every single day? You know? So what if it's maybe it's a hobby that you have that you're not like super passionate about, but you're like, I really want to get better at this. And okay, spend 10 minutes a day doing it, you know, build that little habit and it will add up over time. And before you know it, you've paid off your freaking car, you know? So it's like, or you've built an awesome skill. And so it's just, but you're totally right. Yeah. You're like, man, I'm not spending that much or whatever. And then you look at it and you're like, oh, but I totally forgot about that. And then, but you're totally like, oh, but that was like an emergency. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, yeah, but life's going to throw you emergencies. So if you're not disciplined and you're not ready for it, those emergencies are going to, you know, like F you up, you know? It's going to rock the boat.
For real. What about you? What's going on with you this week? Do you have any thoughts on that?
This week we had our last set of sectionals this week. And this whole week is leading up to next week, which is marching band. So it's been crazy figuring out how we're gonna do it with the guidelines that the state's given, that our school district has given, that the state music association has given. And so we've got a plan, and right before this I was writing up our plan and figuring out, you know, I'm about to communicate that to everybody. But you know, I'm trying to be cognizant of the fact that we don't know how this is going to turn out. So we got to know like what goals we have, what the most important goals are. And then we just got to be flexible. You know, we can't be we're not going to be sticking to a schedule. We have an idea of what we'd like to do.
Yeah.
But you know, but if you're too structured and you're too rigid, then when that happens, it stresses you out and you freak out about it. And you're like, oh, like, I don't know what the heck I'm going to do. And when you're not calm, no one around you can be calm if you're a leader. So that's kind of what's been going on this week. You know, getting the lifts in, getting the jits in.
Yeah.
I've been doing more, not, instead of the pause reps on the ground, what are they called? Floor press.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of where I just set the pins instead right here.
Yeah.
And then a dead press. And so.
Oh, okay.
For the bench. And I've been looking into some more like kettlebell exercises. So I've been doing like some kettlebell cleans, one arm cleans, presses into, and then doing one arm, like where you have the kettlebell right here, it's up here. And then you do like some goblet squats like that. And it totally it totally works your core because you have to get really tight when you're going down because it's on one side of your body. Yeah. So I've been trying to like work on my warm up a little bit more. Because I think I've been lifting a little bit too heavy every single day. Like I'm just way too sore all the time. Yeah. So I think I need to just cool it a little bit. So I'm spending more time with the other stuff. But I've been setting some kind of PRs on stuff, but like, oh yeah. I mean, like on like smaller movements, like, you know, like shrugs or something. I'm finally up to hundreds on those. Oh yeah. But it's just, but I mean, I'm just certain exercises, I just need like more days to recover from when I go at them. And me taking a day off, like, or going lighter isn't something that I like to do. Because you're sore, but once you take your pre and you do the warm up, your adrenaline hits and then you feel fine, you know, and then you're like, oh, let's go. And then, you know, halfway through the day, you're just like, holy buckets. Like, you know, especially when you're standing all day at rehearsal, you know, like it's like you're on your feet and you're like, I just want to sit down. My kidneys are exploding. So,
or then when you do sit down and you stand back up and you're like, oh, my butt's really sore. Like I felt that yesterday and today.
That's a good soreness though. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So.
Yeah. Well, on the sub, I wanted to touch on something real quick. You said about the you're talking about band and like if you have a too rigid of a structure and then plans change and it's like, well, then you get super stressed and like everything kind of goes out the window. In high school, my band director told me this was like one of the biggest things I pulled from high school band was that quote, adversity is our asset, end quote.
Oh, I love that.
Like,
that's
so good.
That's like in Mulan, when Mulan's dad puts the flower in Mulan's ear and he said, the flower that blooms in adversity is the most rare and beautiful of them all. So I'm like, dude, but I love it. Adversity is our asset. But you're totally right. Like, that's like built-in motivation. If your story is written the right way, then you're like a knight and you're just always looking for a dragon. You're like, yo, like, let's fight. You know what I mean? like, let's go. Like, I'm ready to battle like all the time. Not that you should be, you know, not overly aggressive all the time, but you should be, like Jocko says, default aggressive, like mentally, you know, and just kind of, but you're totally right. Like, and just to reiterate, that doesn't mean that you don't have a plan. Like I have a plan.
Yeah.
Obviously. I've visualized it in my head. I know how I want it to go. It's very clear how I want it to go. Like I have a very specific way that I want to do things, but I can't get so attached to that I'm going to sink the ship. So I got to just be flexible with it and not be emotionally attached to that plan.
Yeah.
So that if somebody comes in with a better plan, I can say, whoa, like that's way better. Let's do that thing, you know, or man, this really isn't working like I thought it would. I need to adjust now, and we need to proceed this way. You know, it's kind of like when you just set a lift, like when you're like, I'm going to lift these numbers today, and it's just a little bit too heavy. But you're just like, you know what? But I'm just going to grind these things out and just destroy my lower back because, like, you know, that's a really easy way to get stronger. You know, just like knock yourself out. Or you go in there and you're moving the weight and it's really fast, and you're like, you know what? I'm really feeling good today. I can go a little bit. I'm going to add a couple sets. I'm going to throw on 10 pounds. So, you know, but if you're not detached and you're not focused, like, or focused on your goals and that concept, it's easy to get too attached to, oh, I gotta lift the weight because I gotta be a man, you know.
Yeah, and it just ties into good, you know, like what Jocko's like, good, like, you know, you didn't get to follow through on the plan you wanted to because, you know, someone threw a wrench in it. Like, good, now you get to think of a new one. You have to learn how to think on your feet a little bit, or, you know what, like, you didn't get to practice today. Well, good. Now you get to think about how it feels to not practice, or like not, you know, get to do what you want. And so now you can think of another way to, like, you know, improve yourself musically. That's not necessarily with the horn on your face. It's a way to think about it. So I think, you know, good and adversity as our asset is tied in, like, directly together.
And on that, what good does, and it sounds like super crazy to like most people, like they think it's just a little, maybe they think it's like testosterone poisoning, or, you know, they think that it's just a little bit too intense. And maybe it is, I don't know. But what's so nice about it is that it just totally takes, like, it almost takes the stress out of the situation, because then you're not like, oh, you're just like, okay, let's go. Like you almost, because you're a little bit more like opportunistic and aggressive with, like, all right, let's just focus on this. Like, it kind of keeps your momentum going, you know? So like if you're moving along and something happens and you say good, it's almost like you just change direction rather than come to a halt. And then you kind of, you know, you come to, you know, like you get back, and then you're like, you get your bearings, and then you're disoriented, and you're like, well, you know, it's like, no, like, good just kind of keeps your momentum going. And it's just like, like, we're rolling, like, let's just go. Like,
well,
like, we're just going to keep moving, you know?
Well, you know, if you don't say good and you just let your emotions run amok and explode, it means you drop the donkey.
Dude, you're being the donkey.
You let the donkey run loose, man. You just blew everybody up.
Yeah, don't be a donkey. You know, like, so, dude, nice. That was nice to tie us back in there.
Thank you.
I forgot about the donkey, but I'm glad you brought him back up. So
I was looking for a tie-in to see if we could tie it in somehow.
Good. You know?
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's right.
So, well, B, that seems like since you said the D word, I think that's a good. You know, we don't need a double back to the donkey.
Yeah. So, sounds like a good wrap up to me. So
all right, man. Well, don't be a donkey, and demand more from yourself than anybody would ever expect. So that's Tony Robbins, by the way. That's not me. So want to make sure we get that out there.
Yeah. So all right. Well, this was super good conversation. We'll be back for next week as well. And thank you for all those who watched the first one or listened to the first one rather. You know, this is a new project for us, and it's super cool to get to do this. So we have these conversations all the time, just in person. So we thought, you know, why not record them and see if anyone can find it applicable to their own life. So we'll be back next week, and thank you for joining Of Mind and Metal.
Roger. See you, man.
See ya.